Everybody else on like we didn't even mention KK. I mean, Kevin Korchinski literally sucked. Like literally sucked. And I think that was a terrible look for him to come out there last night and look absolutely lost. Not only lost, he got beat by random guys on the puck. It was like, dude, like I don't know if it's like if it's I mean, I understand everyone has different ways they come about the game. Everybody has different approaches. And I think about it with like Bedard. He spent this entire summer working out with the best players, figuring out how he can get stronger, how he can become a better player, and we're all complimenting him on that level. And we're like, for a 20-year-old, that's the type of competitive spirit, whatever you want to call it, that you want to see for probably your future captain on the team. And you want to see that development because he's our number one pick, blah, blah, blah. For
Yeah.
like Kevin Korchinski, it's like, I haven't heard one story of him working out. I haven't heard like one thing. I haven't heard him say he's in the best shape of his life, and everybody's throwing that out there. I haven't heard him say that once. So maybe he's not, but I don't know. It's just like I think about that sometimes, where it's like maybe some players just aren't built that way, aren't thinking of it, of approaching the game or approaching their everyday life of like, I need to be the absolute best I can be to make. And maybe he is. I don't know him personally, but like, I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, I just don't think you should be getting beat by pucks, and we keep using the excuse that he's 20 years old. But it's like, but and I know Bedard and trying to compare Bedard, defenseman, blah blah blah. It's like it's hard to do that.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just think that he should like I feel like we should be hearing stories of him working out massive amounts. We should hear about how much weight he's put on or how much quicker he's become or like, if you're a guy who was a former first round pick who's supposed to make this team, I feel like we should be hearing those like they're nothing burger stories. They're just random shit that you want to fill and get clicks on during the summer. But like at the same time, it's like, I'd like to think that the like that we aren't lying about Bedard, you know? Like we're
Right.
not lying when I hear stories about how Austin Matthews is coming into this season the heaviest he's ever been, and he does look legitimately fucking big because he wanted to bulk up this season. It's like, I see it's noticeably different. For Kevin Korchinski, it's like, man, you can't become just a random fucking dude. Like,
Well, and right, like you did mention, like he's a former first round pick. The Blackhawks took him seventh overall in 2022. He's almost 100 games into his NHL career.
yeah,
We have no idea what direction he's going in. To where, and I'm not trying to compare him and Bedard because I don't feel like it's a fair comparison, just
right.
because one's a forward and one's a defenseman. But I feel like you look at, like a Brent Seabrook or a Duncan Keith, we kind of knew, at least maybe I'm speaking for myself here. I don't know. I felt like the Blackhawks knew, at least by their 100th game, what they were getting. Granted, it may not have been perfect all the time. Same thing with like a Jalmerson. But at the same time, they saw these guys take steps to improve their game and look lost on the ice. Like you mentioned before, like he was getting beat by random people. And at some point, if you can only play so many games in Rockford, at least for me, before you do end up becoming a Lucas Reichel, where cool, you can light it up in Rockford, you can play really well, but ultimately at some point you're gonna have to take the next step. And I don't know if we're gonna get that from KK yet.
Yeah, I play the maybe we should take it easy game with him, and I play the maybe we are being too hard sort of game too much mentally in my head for him. And it's like, I think I'll quote Chris Pronger when he said that you don't really know what you have with a player until they played 300 games in the league. And like by then, you will know exactly who they are. And but that's only if you make it, right? That's only if you
Mhm.
make it 300 games. And then once you make the 300 games, you kind of know who they are as a player. Um, I mean, he's 20 years old, and I guess that's kind of it. It's 20 years old, and that's you'll figure it out when you figure it out, I guess. And I don't know. I just hope that somebody comes out and like, I don't know. I just don't think he should be getting beat by like physically beat by some players that are out there. I mean, like I get it. That's like everybody gets beat. Patrick Kane gets beat in corners by guys. And, in a different position, but that he gets beat by guys. So it's not like that's like a crazy thing to say. But at the same time, it's like if you're a defenseman and you're not going to be probably not going to be in the top four. You're going to be that bottom pair guy, you're gonna want to beat guys. Like you don't want to get beat physically, and that's the role that they're carving out for you. You need to carve it out yourself. I don't know. It's like, hey, am I gonna fucking say at 20 years old I had it all figured out? No, but like I'm not also getting paid this amount of money to go and I'm not being supported by one of the best organizations, the original six franchise that maybe they should be doing these things to get him mentally in the space to be one of the top guys physically to be like, hey, this is what you should be doing. And maybe they are. I don't know. But I mean, lots of
And
questions
maybe
with him.
right, and maybe too, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit. You know, I'm wondering just how soft the front office is on some of these guys. That maybe putting a little bit of mental pressure on them wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. I think, as we've talked about a little bit before, I think Lucas Reichel's a little bit past that. Like you said, I think he's gone. But your Korchinskis, your Kaisers, these younger guys who maybe have some stuff that they do need to figure out, you know, put that on them, see how they respond. Because, one of the, and I'll speak from my experience. Um, when I was in sports and, I only say this from an athlete perspective, you're not basically doing, I guess, you're not being all that you can be in that particular sport. And, maybe your coach takes you aside and says, if this is something that you want to do and you want to get better at, you kind of need to start taking some steps to improve yourself and re-evolve yourself in whatever sport that is. And I think a lot of these guys need to have that tough conversation, and just try to see where do they want to take their career. Because here's my thing: if you have that conversation with a player and they go, "Oh well," not that anybody's going to admit this. Well, I think I'm most likely a career AHL type guy. That's fine and dandy. You can go do that somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I keep thinking of it like, the players that have the most, and this is in any sport, the players that have the most success are the guys who are that you see working on their craft every single day, doing something every single day to make themselves better. Sidney Crosby is the first guy in the locker or on the ice for practice every single day. He's the first guy who's going to be there for uh every single practice or every single thing that you need him to do. He'll be the first guy in, last guy out. And Connor Bedard has become that guy. He's the first guy in, last guy out type of guy. And not everybody is like that because everybody was. We'd be full of freak athletes who do this sort of thing, and I understand that. Um, and I know we just took a long fucking, a long fucking stop on Kevin Korchinski, but it's like, if he wants it, he has to want it, and I think that that's sort of where it's at. And I don't want to speak for him to be like he doesn't want it. I assume he wants it, but it's just like. I don't know. I don't know. I think I don't know for whatever reason that triggered me seeing him getting pushed off the puck last night, like so many times in the ways that I did, and I was like, man, dude, what are we doing?
And to
Yeah,
to loosely quote Bruce Boudreau here, he gave a speech when he was coaching with the Capitals. You know, don't just think you want it, go out there and fucking want it. And I feel like a lot of these guys don't realize the opportunities that they have in front of them. Like a lot of these, a lot of these, more seasoned vets, and as we're seeing at least what I've seen from past years, you know, the younger guys should be hungry to want to get in that lineup and should, ultimately their goal should be to want to play in the NHL. But if you're not going to do things to help yourself obtain your goals, then I don't know what to tell you.